What is up, guys? I'm GetFlinked. In today's video, we are going to talk about shallow roaming. A lot of you guys refer to this as lurking. I'm fine with that. I call it shallow roaming. Either way, what we're talking about is when you're roaming, but you're staying pretty close to the objective. Yesterday, I put out a video talking about deep roaming. If you guys haven't watched that, make sure you give it a look. I'll link it up in the top right-hand corner of the screen. You guys can click up there at the end of the video and go watch that one if you haven't seen it yet. But in deep roaming, you're going a long ways away from the objective, maybe on the other side of the map. You're trying to play for like a late flank. You're trying to make sure that you remain undetected the whole time. In shallow roaming, it's a bit different, and we're going to talk about those differences in this video, and I'm going to give you some tips. We're going to go over a clip where I execute a shallow roam. I'm going to tell you what's going through my mind and tell about the things that kind of lead to success in that round. Now, once again, in this clip, I will be solo queuing, and I'm playing against a mixture of high golds and low plats. Also, I'm going to be playing secure area, and at this point, I want to talk a little bit about the differences between secure area and bomb, because some of you guys have asked about this. 99% of what I'm going to talk about in this video, as well as what I talked about in the deep roam video, will apply to either secure area or bomb. With that said, there are some very real differences between the two game types. The biggest thing that sticks out to me when it comes to roaming on secure area versus bomb is in bomb, you're not going to get any type of notification when the enemy pushes into the objective like you do in secure area. So if you're roaming, the enemy could be in the objective, planting the diffuser, and you will have no idea. So you have to be much more aware of that, because if the enemy does get in there and plants that diffuser, you aren't going to be able just to run back in the objective and contest. You have to get in there and actually, get that diffuser and retake the complete site. So that's the big difference that jumps out to me. As a roamer on bomb, you have to be much more aware of the enemy, where they are and how close they are to the objective, because if they get into the objective and take that site, they could actually use that roam against you. Now, to talk a little bit about the difference between a deep roam and a shallow roam. In the deep roam video, I talked a lot about how there is a lot of risk with that deep roam. And if you're playing against a good team that drones well, then deep roaming can be very, very risky, because they can drone you out and then pinch you and put you in a really bad spot. So shallow roaming, in my opinion, against better teams is much more effective, much safer, and can still be very effective at wasting time, which again, anytime you're roaming, wasting time is one of the top priorities that you can have. So the shallow roam is probably what I would recommend that you guys play more often against a team that drones really well and that's very well coordinated. The shallow roam, it allows you to not sit in the objective and to resist them on the map, but it doesn't put you as much risk of being droned out and pinched as a deep roam does. With that said, in the shallow roam, you're going to need to win some face-to-face gunfights, and you have to keep that in mind. It is much less risky as far as your positioning, but it's more risky in your gunfights. You're not going to be shooting people in the back nearly as often. Okay, now getting into the clip that we're going to go over, we are going to focus on 3 different major concepts in this video, because honestly, when you're talking about shallow roaming, the line between shallow roaming and anchoring is very blurry. So there's going to be 3 concepts I want to go over that I think can help you if you're trying to pull off a shallow roam, no matter what map or objective you're on. These are going to be 3 major concepts that I think you can focus on. Now, I'm going to pause it right there, because the way that I started this round out is I went up to this played out spot where I can open a line of sight into freezer. I look at that as kind of like a spawn peak. I'm hoping that somebody rushes through freezer into kitchen and it's going to give me an easy kill. But you can see right there on the freeze frame, I got droned out and I heard people rappelling. So I feel like I'm getting ready to get pinched. Yes, I'm visual. I could have been using his gadget, but it doesn't matter, because the fact that they're droning top floor tells me that this team is actively looking for roamers, and they're very likely to, even if they would have seen my indicator up there, they probably would have tried to pinch me, and it's not a good position for me to be in. If they cut me off on the stairs, then I'm pretty much trapped up here. So at this point, it's early enough in the round where I feel like I can just get out of dodge, live to fight another day, and get back closer to the objective and continue to waste their time. And that's the first concept that I want to go over, living to fight another day. I already mentioned it once, but as a roamer, one of your main objectives should be to waste time. You can't do that if you're dead. So they droned me out up here. I'm going to go downstairs, get closer to the objective, and just continue to waste time. And that's really the first major concept on that shallow roam. You don't always have to be going after kills or chasing kills. You should just be trying to waste time a lot of the time out there. So now that I got myself out of that bad situation, I'm going to take up a position here on stairs that's very powerful, especially as a vigil, because they can't see exactly where you are. I've gotten a lot of kills from this position. Anybody who pushes out a kitchen is going to come pretty much right into your crosshairs, and it's a nice choke point to hold if you don't want to sit in the objective. But you're going to see here in a second, I get a kill on Ash. She came upstairs to try to get me when they droned me out, and then she made a mistake of getting her drone right there, and I heard it, so I just went up and got a really easy kill on her. But this brings us to the next point that I want to go over, and that is playing off of your teammates. I'm going to continue to hold this position on the stairs because Kavera is in bar. And in all honesty, I'm kind of baiting her. I know that she's not going to survive much longer in there, and I'm waiting to see where she dies from. Sure enough, somebody in kitchen right there was holding that angle and killed Kavera, and then I was able to trade that out really easy because they weren't looking my way. They were looking towards Kavera. So even though you're playing with randoms, you can still use them. And I'm not saying you should bait them all the time, but you can use their positioning to give you information on where the enemies are and to take focus off of you. Okay, so at this point in the round, there's about a minute left, and this is where shallow roaming becomes very similar to anchoring. The difference is you're going to cover a little bit more ground when you're shallow roaming. You're still going to focus on choke points and angles, but instead of holding those angles, what I do is I try to peek those angles and rotate. So I think about the different angles that I can focus on a choke point. The choke point right now is the staircase over there coming downstairs. I can hold the angle from here. I can peek from this door. I can also peek from the door that I'm getting ready to right now. But you're going to see this is where it's different than anchoring. I'm going to pre-fire it. I'm not going to hold an angle on it. I'm just going to peek, pre-fire, and then rotate. And the thing there is I'm trying to keep them guessing. I'm trying to not be too predictable on where they can, because they can come out of that door and pre-fire too if they know where I am. So that position right there that I got that kill from, there's no doubt that they've seen people hold that angle several times before. But by me rotating between the two doors, it kept them on their toes and didn't allow them to zero in on exactly where I was. And, it made me a little bit harder to kill. Now, when you're shallow roaming, you have to find that balance between peeking, wasting time, because honestly, peeking, pre-firing, stuff like that, it wastes time. It keeps the attackers from just walking straight into the objective, but you also don't want to risk it too much. They have to come to you, so you don't want to peek everything necessarily. You got to find that balance between wasting time, and challenging the attackers, but also not peeking too much and making yourself an easy kill when you could have just, kind of sat back and made them push you. You also, as a shallow roamer, need to really work upon pre-firing and peeking fast. And you saw me do it once well in that clip. It's honestly one of the weakest parts of my game. It's something that I'm working on every day, trying to be a better peeker, trying to learn to pre-fire and just remember to do that. Because when you're shallow roaming, no doubt you're going to end up in predictable locations, but that doesn't mean that you can't still have an advantage in these gunfights. I knew people were on those stairs. I knew people were pushing that door. That's why whenever I peeked from church down that hall, I pre-fired the door. That was well done. But whenever I rotated over to that other door, why didn't I pre-fire when I peeked there? Instead, I peeked out, put my sights on where I thought they would be, and then shot. And that's a mistake. I could have very easily died there. There's less than a minute left in the round. I think at that time there was probably less than 30 seconds left in the round. So who cares about giving away your position? Don't worry about that. Just focus on fast peeking and pre-firing to make yourself harder to kill and to give yourself an advantage in those gunfights. They have to push you. They have to put themselves in a predictable location. So you can be at an advantage if you're holding those choke points and peeking them fast and pre-firing. And that's really the biggest difference between shallow roaming and anchoring. In that final minute of gameplay there, when you're anchoring, you're holding a lot of angles. When you're shallow roaming, I do a lot of fast peeking, pre-firing, go to a different line of sight. Fast peek, pre-fire, go to a different line of sight. Again, I'm trying to waste time. I'm trying to make the attackers feel uncomfortable, and I'm trying to not let them know exactly where I'm going to be when they do push the objective. Okay guys, that's it for shallow roaming. It's a very vague concept, but I think the three big things you can take from this video that can help you when you're trying to execute a shallow roam is, first of all, live to fight another day. If you find yourself in a bad situation, try to get out of it and live to fight another day. Second, even though you're playing as randoms, play off your teammates. That situation where I had Cav in the bar, I knew somebody was going to push her, and I was just trying to put myself in a situation where I could either trade her out or kill somebody who was trying to push her. The third is work on your peeking, work on pre-firing, focus on those choke points later in the round, but don't hold angles as much as you're fast peeking, pre-firing, rotating to another line of sight. Those are the three big things that I think can help you guys if you're trying to pull off the shallow roam. If you've enjoyed this, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.